On April 10th, 2026, at approximately 6:44 in the evening Eastern Daylight Time, the Orion spacecraft integrity passed behind the moon and the signal from 4 human beings disappeared. For 40 minutes, from 6:44 to 7:25 p.m. Mission Control in Houston had no contact with Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Koch, and Canadian Space Agency mission specialist Jeremy Hansen. What those 4 people saw during those 40 minutes and during the 7 hours of the lunar flyby surrounding that blackout is what this script documents, the first complete human view of the lunar far side in the history of our species. The title of this script calls it The Forbidden View. That word requires one specific clarification. The far side of the moon is not forbidden by any authority. It is hidden, permanently, structurally, geometrically hidden, by the same gravitational mechanism that has locked the moon in its current orientation toward Earth. Since before the first humans walked the African savanna, the moon is tidally locked to Earth. Its rotation period exactly matches its orbital period around Earth, which means the same hemisphere has faced Earth continuously for billions of years, and the opposite hemisphere has never been visible from Earth's surface in the entire history of our planet's most intelligent species. The Soviet Luna 3 probe captured the first photographs of the far side in October 1959. Apollo 8 crew members in December 1968 were the first humans to see any part of it, but their close orbital path and mission timing gave them only partial, rapid views of specific regions. The Artemis II crew, traveling a free return trajectory that carried them to a maximum distance of 252,756 miles from Earth, while looping around the lunar far side at an altitude of approximately 4,067 miles, had 7 hours of observation time from a geometry that gave them what no human before them had: a complete view of the entire hemisphere. Every crater, every basin, every ridge, and ancient lava flow on the lunar far side that was illuminated during those 7 hours was observed by human eyes for the first time in history. When Christina Koch radioed back as the blackout ended, she said, "It is so great to hear from Earth again. It is worth sitting with what that means." She was far enough away, behind a body large enough, that Earth itself had disappeared. Leave a comment right now. Victor Glover called down to mission control from behind the moon on April 6th. "Boy, I'm loving the Terminator. There's just so much magic in the Terminator. The islands of light, the valleys that look like black holes. You'd fall straight to the center of the moon if you stepped in some of those. It's just so visually captivating." He was describing the line between lunar day and night on the far side of the moon. Nobody had ever described it from that distance before. The Artemis II crew is splashing down tonight off the coast of San Diego. What do you think we will discover about the far side's mystery? Why it has almost no volcanic basalt plains compared to the near side? Once the science data from their 7 hours of observation is fully analyzed? Leave your answer in the comments. Signal number 1. The confirmed specific observations the Artemis II crew made during the 7-hour lunar flyby on April 6th are the scientific record that makes the forbidden view framing analytically justified, rather than merely dramatic. NASA's confirmed mission report published April 7th documented the full scope of what the crew observed and photographed during their time at the moon. The crew documented impact craters, ancient lava flows, and surface fractures. Geology that will help scientists study the moon's geologic evolution over the 4.5 billion year history of the solar system. They monitored color, brightness, key and texture differences across the terrain, differences that reveal the mineral composition and relative age of surface features. They observed Reiner Gamma on the near side during approach, a bright, mysterious swirl whose origin scientists are still debating, one of the moon's genuinely unexplained surface features. They photographed Vavilov Crater and Hertzsprung Basin. Space Q confirmed the image of Hertzsprung Basin showing its distinctive 2 concentric rings of mountains, a formation whose scale is only comprehensible from altitude. They reported color nuances on the near side, browns and blues that can help reveal mineral composition and feature age, data that ground telescopes and orbital probes cannot provide at the same fidelity as human observation through high-quality optics. The crew also performed something that only humans at the moon can do. They reported 6 meteoroid impact flashes on the darkened lunar surface during the solar eclipse phase, flashes lasting only fractions of a second that their eyes caught and reported in real time to mission controllers. These impacts provide direct data on the current meteoroid flux at the lunar surface, information that is directly relevant to the safety planning for Artemis III's crewed landing. The Terminator that Glover described with such eloquence is the specific scientific observation that pilot Glover was formally tasked with documenting, and it is not only beautiful, it is operationally critical. Science Alert confirmed that Glover focused on the Terminator, the dividing line between the day and night sides of the moon, because this is the exact lighting condition astronauts will face when landing at the lunar South Pole on Artemis III. The South Polar region, which Artemis IV is currently targeting for the first crewed lunar landing since 1972, experiences extremely low sun angles. The sun never rises high above the horizon at the poles, creating the same kind of dramatic shadows, bright ridges, and dark valleys that Glover was watching from orbit. A human pilot, who has seen how their eye adapts to that lighting geometry from altitude, will land at the lunar South Pole with visual experience that no simulation can fully replicate. Glover's 7 hours of watching the Terminator were not recreational. They were the most direct possible preparation for a future human landing in the most challenging lighting environment on the Moon. Signal number 2. The confirmed first ever in-space solar eclipse observation from behind the Moon is the specific scientific and human achievement of the Artemis II flyby that the forbidden view framing captures most precisely. Because this is a phenomenon that cannot be observed from Earth's surface, cannot be observed from low Earth orbit, and cannot be observed from lunar orbit. It can only be observed from a specific geometry, a spacecraft positioned on the far side of the Moon at a moment when the Earth, Moon, and Sun are aligned such that the Moon's disk is large enough to completely block the Sun. NASA confirmed nearly 54 minutes of totality during the solar eclipse observed by the Artemis II crew. Live Science confirmed they were the first people in history to view a solar eclipse from behind the Moon. During that totality, the crew observed phenomena that have never been documented by human eyes. The Sun's corona, the outermost atmosphere of the Sun, normally invisible because the Sun's blazing disk overwhelms it, appeared as what the crew described as baby hairs, wisps of light extending from the edge of the lunar disk. Koch described it: the Sun has gone behind the Moon, and the corona is still visible, and it's bright and creates a halo almost around the entire Moon. NASA confirmed scientists are now investigating whether the glowing halo observed was the corona itself, zodiacal light, sunlight scattered by interplanetary dust, or a combination of both. The answer matters for understanding the structure of the solar corona at close range, and it was documented by 4 human observers who were, at that moment, farther from Earth than any human had been in 56 years. During the same eclipse totality, with the Moon blocking the Sun's light entirely, the crew also observed stars normally too faint to see when the Sun is visible, and Venus, Mars, and Saturn became clearly visible. The crew wore eclipse glasses to safely view the Sun's reappearance. NASA confirmed this as the first use of eclipse glasses at the Moon, a small detail that contains a significant implied confirmation. The crew had the presence of mind, the preparation, and the time to use them, meaning the experience was measured, careful, and scientifically productive rather than overwhelming. They were not tourists. They were observers, documenting phenomena that will not be observable again by humans until the next crewed mission returns to this geometry. Here is what nobody is telling you about why the asymmetry between the Moon's near side and far side, the specific scientific mystery that the Artemis II crew's observations are designed to help answer, is one of the most consequential unsolved problems in lunar science. From Earth, telescopes and orbital probes have mapped the near side in extraordinary detail for decades. The near side is partially covered by large, flat, dark plains of volcanic basalt, called maria, Latin for seas, that formed when volcanic eruptions millions of years ago flooded impact basins with lava. These maria are what form the face of the man in the Moon visible from Earth on a clear night. Science Alert confirmed the far side has very little basalt resurfacing and is heavily scarred by craters that are comparatively absent on the near side. The reason for this difference is, in Science Alert's words, a mystery that we have yet to solve. One leading hypothesis involves a difference in the thickness of the lunar crust between the 2 hemispheres. The far side crust is thicker, possibly preventing volcanic material from reaching the surface. Another involves the early thermal history of the Moon, and the possibility that Earth's proximity concentrated heat or radioactive elements on the near side. The Artemis II crew's high-resolution observations of color, brightness, texture, and geological features on the far side, combined with the 6 meteoroid impact flash reports and the Terminator observations, are data points that planetary scientists will analyze for years as they work toward understanding why 50% of the Moon's surface looks fundamentally different from the 50% that every human who has ever lived on Earth has been looking at. The answer to that question is not just about the Moon. It is about the early solar system, the formation of rocky planets, and the processes that shaped the inner solar system 4 billion years ago. The 2 newly named craters that emerged from the flyby are the specific, confirmed human dimension of the forbidden view that the science reports alone cannot fully document. Live Science confirmed that near the Terminator line, the crew discovered 2 new lunar craters and asked for them to be named Integrity, after the Orion crew capsule's official call sign, and Carol, in honor of Commander Reed Wiseman's late wife. The naming of Carol was proposed by the other 3 crew members during quarantine before launch. They approached Wiseman to tell him their idea. Wiseman described the moment as the pinnacle of the mission, and where the four of us were the most forged, the most bonded. 2 new craters on the far side of the moon, never before seen by human eyes, named by the people who first saw them. 1 for the ship that carried them. 1 for a woman who never made it to the moon, but whose name is now there permanently, on a crater on the hemisphere that, for all of human history before April 6th, 2026, no person had ever seen. The 3-indicator framework for the Artemis II far side, observation's specific scientific legacy, is the forward-looking analytical dimension that distinguishes this mission's confirmed record from the Apollo missions it builds upon. The first indicator is the heat shield assessment after tonight's splashdown. The Artemis II crew makes its Pacific Ocean splashdown tonight at approximately 8:07 p.m. Eastern Time off the coast of San Diego. Post-splashdown inspection of the Orion heat shield will confirm whether the thermal protection system performed within design margins during the first crewed re-entry from lunar return velocity. Wikipedia confirmed that NASA has stated that design changes addressing AV coat permeability are planned for the heat shield intended for Artemis III. If tonight's heat shield inspection reveals the specific permeability issues that generated the pre-launch engineering debates, the confirmed data will either validate the redesign choices already planned for Artemis III or require additional engineering review. The heat shield result is the single most consequential confirmed engineering data point that exits tonight's mission. The second indicator is the full release of the lunar science observation data, the photographs, the spectroscopic readings, the crew's logged observations in the weeks following splashdown. NASA confirmed the crew took thousands of photographs during the 7-hour flyby, with more to be released as they are processed. The initial gallery shows Hertzsprung Basin, Vavilov Crater, the Earth set, the total solar eclipse, the Terminator, and the near-side features, including Reiner Gamma and Glushko Crater. The complete dataset, when released, will be the first high-resolution human eye perspective photographic record of the entire lunar fair side. Every image the crew captured beyond what the orbital probes have mapped at angles and lighting conditions that no robotic mission can replicate will be a confirmed contribution to the planetary science database. The third indicator is whether the Artemis III landing timeline holds. Science Alert confirmed Artemis III is currently targeted for 2027 as a crewed mission to test rendezvous and docking procedures with commercial spacecraft intended for future lunar landing operations, with Artemis IV targeting a crewed landing near the moon's south pole in early 2028. The Artemis II mission data, every system test result, every engineering performance measurement, the heat shield, data from tonight's re-entry determines how many of those systems need modification before a crewed lunar landing is attempted. If Artemis II's data confirms most systems are ready, the 2027 and 2028 timeline holds. If significant engineering questions emerge, the timeline shifts. Here's the conclusion that April 10th, 2026 demands: the day the Artemis II crew comes home. On April 6th, 4 human beings saw the far side of the moon with their own eyes for the first time in history. They saw craters that no human had named, including one they named Carol and one they named Integrity. They watched Earth set behind the lunar horizon. They witnessed a solar eclipse from behind the moon that lasted nearly an hour, seeing the corona that the sun normally hides in its own brilliance. They reported 6 meteoroid impacts on the darkened surface. Victor Glover watched the Terminator, the day-night boundary on the most challenging landing terrain in the solar system's inner reaches, and described it as magic with black hole valleys. Christina Koch said, "It is so great to hear from Earth again. Tonight they come home to the Pacific Ocean off San Diego, and the 50% of the moon that every human who ever lived could never see now has photographs, names, scientific observations, and 4 pairs of human eyes in its history.